Welcome to my backyard snack yard, or actually right now welcome to my living room where I have lots of my plants overwintering and eagerly awaiting our last frost date. Within the next few weeks, towards sort of the middle or the sort of end of May, I'm going to be chucking all of these plants outside into the hopeful sunshine. It's still quite dark and gloomy out there and very wet and rainy, so these guys would not do well out there at the moment. It'd be quite a big shock to the system, but we're going to gradually get them acclimatized in the next few weeks to going back outside. And in order to do that, I need to get them ready to be out in the winds and weather. And as you can probably tell by looking at this Physalis, this is also known as a Cape Gooseberry. It's got loads and loads of names. I'll just flash them across the screen. But it's a very beautiful, beautiful berry. And if we look at it closely, we can see the flowers and the berries in different stages of development, because what it does is it just keeps on flowering and fruiting the whole time. As soon as it gets mature enough to do so, then you just keep on getting flowers like this, little yellow ones, moving on to little lantern parcels here that have a big yellow berry in the middle that slowly ripens, and then you can just pick them off when they're perfectly yellow, and then the berry inside is this amazing orange ball that just tastes of summer and tropical flavors, in my opinion. I have bought some from the supermarket at times, and they tend to have sort of a strange aftertaste, which I don't really find that pleasant. But I think when you get them fresh, they just taste different and wonderful. But what I can say right now is that it's a very sprawling plant. It can't stay outside. I keep on growing them from seed and popping them outside, and then as soon as it gets any sort of frost out there, sort of down to 1 degree Celsius, then they just tend to die, and they actually die down to their roots. So in this country, I can't grow them as perennials. They're definitely annuals unless I take them inside. And that's what I did with this one. He was very small when I took him in, sort of maybe in October, I believe. I had him in a pot that fit him very well. I've just given him a big drink, so he's in a bucket now. But yeah, I had him in this small pot, and he was just about this tall, like maybe a meter, just over a meter. It's probably well over a meter. And yeah, he's just spread out, and you know, it's kind of going out this direction. Now, what you can do with them is they're so easy to take as cuttings. And what I find is that when I grow them from seed, they take a long time to get to the level of maturity where they start flowering and fruiting. And so I end up getting really late harvests. Like I get the berries, they start ripening in October, and then there's just a small window of time where I can harvest fruit before it gets too cold and then the plants die. So having them at this level of maturity now means I'll get berries all summer. I mean, right now, all they need is a bit of sunshine to ripen and get really big and beautiful and juicy and yellow. So what I want to do now is actually to prune this guy, sadly, but he is just out of shape. I need to prune him, get him into a more manageable size, and I can take all the cuttings. They grow so readily from cuttings. If you look here along the stems, if you can see, I don't know, it's quite dark in here really, but if you could see along the stems, there are little hairs that they're just like tomatoes. I think maybe it's more clear on this plant, on this side here. You see that little fuzz there? Those are all little hairs, and they can all become roots once they get into contact with soil. So if I just take any of these cuttings, I cut off, I will put into soil and root them, and then I'll have so many plants to add to my garden. I'll just show you, I've already done this in the past. I've been trying to keep them pruned and in a decent, manageable size all winter. So I actually have some cuttings already. I have this little sweet pot of cuttings out here in the kitchen. And as you can see, because they are the right age, it doesn't matter what size they are. It just matters how mature they are. They are fruiting as well. And these ones are all little individual plants down here in the pot, so I can take them all out and pop them into the garden as well on their own. We're going to have so many wonderful Physalis. So nice. They're really easy to grow as well, apart from the whole keeping them from getting too frozen. I treat them like tomatoes. They're in the nightshade family as well, like tomatoes are. So I give them a seaweed food, just like I do tomatoes. It's actually one that's specific for tomatoes. So yeah, really easy. But let me get on with pruning and cutting and repotting. So because he is so enormous, it's going to be quite a drastic cutting, but I think he'll actually benefit from it. It is a shame to cut off all these big fruits, but I'm going to see if I can just leave them. I wonder if I can leave them on the plant. We'll see how it goes, but it definitely needs to get into a decent size because there's no way it can get out into the winds and weather in a few weeks' time and just be buffeted around. It wants to be much shorter before it does that. And then it will also thicken out because if you look down into the pot, there are loads of little stems coming up there too, which will just continue to bush out. That's what it does. It keeps on growing more and more from everywhere. It's really a wonderful bush. If you have one of these, it's so easy to make cuttings, so it really is highly recommended to get a hold of one of these. They're so, so wonderful, especially if you like the fruit. It's so yummy and super nutritious too. It's got so many health benefits. For example, it has more vitamin C than oranges, which I find amazing. So let me get on with this. Now, cutting. I always find it hard to cut my babies, but I'll do it now, and we'll see how it looks afterwards. Okay, wasn't as bad as it could have been. Let's have a look at the result. Yeah, much better. What I did is I tried to cut them at an angle right where they have a branch coming out. So this branch will just continue going on. And it doesn't look too bad. Here's another one. That branch coming out. I got to cut it a bit closer. I think I'll just prune that down a bit. Or trim that down a bit. But yeah, it looks about a much better height now. It's probably around 5 foot, maybe even 6 foot, depending on, well, I think it'd be 6 foot if you counted the pot, but of course the pot, it makes it probably about 5 foot in general now. So a decent size. So let's get on with repotting it. I've got a really nice, much bigger pot. You can see the difference here. Full of wonderful compost. I added some grit to it too, which just really help with drainage, and some fish blood and bone as well. It's all mixed in now, and as you can see, this pot, I mean, if you look at the soil down here, it's so dry, and that has been, I watered it so much yesterday. I sat it in that dripping pot there for ages, just sucking up water, and it's just because it's such a tiny pot, the roots just are probably completely root bound. So let's get it out and get it happy. I just think it's amazing how many fruits are still on it. It just really is such a bountiful fruiter. A little jungle there. Wonderful. So there it is. Really quite large, but a lot more manageable and balanced. I cut away so much fruit, but everything that's left will really thrive now. And I'm so looking forward to putting this plant back outside. I've got loads of cuttings now from all the offcuts. Whole pile here. I've trimmed them down. And I'll just pop them into a little pot. Maybe you can see more clearly here what I meant about the hairs on the stems. Really fine, but they can all just turn into roots. So really ideal. Just really easy things to root from cuttings. So I'm going to have lots and lots of beautiful Physalis plants this year, and hopefully lots of berries. So glad I saved that one plant, because all the others died very early on when they got hit by a frost outside. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed seeing about my Physalises. All I'm going to do now to get them to really produce a good harvest is continue feeding them with tomato feed, a sort of tomarite thing, a seaweed feed really, and that's all it takes. They just are such great growers. I think they grow like weeds in some countries, some very fortunate countries. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time. Hopefully soon I'll have some beautiful ripe Physalises to share with you. Until then, bye for now. Thanks for watching.